Okay, nerds, welcome to another episode of That Just Happened. It seems that these have been going up a little bit late recently, but whatever. We're still talking about the things that are going on. This week's episode, though, is The Last Bondsman of Us, Gwar. What could that be? Okay, so this is a review show for lazy people. I say that, but being as I am a one-man production, content creation thing, I don't necessarily think I'm lazy for getting it up later because the news is the priority and this is just the conversation about what's happened, right? Eventually, I want to expand the show so that there can be other opinions on the things that just happened, but as it is, I'm poor and can't pay anyone to join me, so... you know, that is where we're going. Either way, review show for lazy people. We'll talk about it once it happens. I think everything this week is brand new, so kudos to me, I guess. But brand new as I'm recording. As you're watching this, it probably happened a week or two ago. Relatively new at that point. So still, I'm pretty proud of the newness of this week's episode. We do have some music to talk about, as evidenced by the fact that Gwar is in the title of today's episode. So we're going to start there, and then we're going to move into The Last of Us. As of filming this, only episode 1 has aired, though by the time you're watching this, episode 2 and maybe even episode 3 will probably be up. And then The Bondsman over on Amazon Prime is going to be the other one that we talk about for this episode, because I haven't watched any movies this week. I have plans for some movies. I want to watch Hard Eyes now that it's streaming, so that's going to be coming up soon. We'll get to the happening soon stuff. Let's talk about music. So first up is Gwar, Lot Lizard. If you don't know what you're getting into with a Gwar song at this point, I really don't know what rock you've been living under, but it's pretty standard Gwar. I thought it was hilarious that not only is the double entendre for the Lot Lizard thing, but like it's part of the story of Gwar, who is their pet T-Rex, so like that's just kind of hilarious. The video is like a B-movie horror movie, and just it's Gwar. It's Gwar. It's hilarious. It's fairly well produced. I have not seen who their new guitar player is, though. I was hoping by the time I got to filming that I would have found out who the hell they hired to replace, I can't even think of his name now, the guy that quit a couple months ago. And I haven't seen anything. Even in the video, you kind of don't see a new guitar player. You just see the one. You don't see that there's two. So maybe they're just rolling with one guitar for the moment? I don't know. It's Gwar. If you don't like Gwar, this isn't changing your mind. If you do like Gwar, you might still be stuck on Dave Brockie, which I don't blame you. This is still, again, reminiscent, I said in the main episode, reminiscent of the Gwar you know and love, but maybe not quite as good as the Gwar you know and love. So take with that what you will. Next up is a band called Byzantine. The name of the song is Floating Chrysanthema. This is, I honestly, so I've listened to very little Byzantine before this. Kind of knew roughly where they were categorized as far as subgenre goes because people are obsessed with that kind of stuff. This track definitely makes them feel much more at home with that new wave of American heavy metal title, the tag that people are putting on the sound, because there are definitely things that feel Lamb of God-y, which I think the new wave of American heavy metal tag was kind of created because nobody could describe the sound of Lamb of God. Like, it kind of sounds like Pantera, but it's really heavy and it's got some thrashy stuff, but it's not quite that like it's the new wave of American heavy metal, right? That's what it is. This feels right at home, right next to that. Aside from the solidness of where it sits in its genre, I still feel like this is relatively unremarkable. Like, if you're looking to expand your vocabulary when it comes to listening to that subgenre, this is a great place to start. But I don't think this is going to be out in front of the pack by any means. So if you're curious as to what other bands sound like that get labeled with that new wave of American heavy metal tag, then go for it. If you just like solid metal, this is going to be a pretty decent recommend, but I don't know that this is exactly the starting beginning place for getting introduced to this subgenre. So that's kind of where we're at with that. Epica is our next one. Epica has released a new song, Fight to Survive, off of their most recent record, which I didn't put in the notes because I take amazing notes, especially when it comes to this stuff. All right, so Fight to Survive, Epica. The video is freaking cool, man. It's very sci-fi, very like space opera kind of sci-fi stuff. Power metal just hasn't really ever done much for me outside of Dragon Force, and honestly, I feel like Dragon Force, just that the Through the Fire and Flames record, I can't remember the name of the proper record. It was almost like that has a lot of meaning. I really appreciate that record, but everything that came out since then has felt more like a meme than anything, and that's about as much power metal as I really get into. So Epica, being kind of power prog, whatever the hell you want to call them, European power, whatever, it's fine. It doesn't necessarily change my mind on the genre. I'm not going to go actively seek out this new Epica record based on this, but I'm not going to turn the radio station when this song comes on either. So very, very mild recommend. It's fine. And then our final one comes from death metal band, I'm pretty sure is where you would quantify these guys, called Coffin Feeder. The name of the track is Plane Zero. It features Mr. Mark Hunter from Chimera on vocals, and this, I think, is how you do a guest vocal spot on extreme metal music. Because previously we've talked about, like, Randy Blythe has done things for bands where it's like, why did he even waste his time? It's just to pick up the paycheck. And then there's been other guest vocal spots where it's like you can't even pick out the guest vocalist. There's no differentiation if he's even in the mix at all, really. I remember, I can't remember what song it was, but there was something recently we talked about that was like, I don't even, like, was he even in the booth for this, or did they just tack his name on there because it would sell them records? This one though, Mark Hunter on this track with Coffin Feeder is a great example of how this is done right in extreme music. Mark's voice is complementary to the vocalist for Coffin Feeder. The track itself is kind of a banging death metal track. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm super excited to listen to this one again. I really dig Hunter's vocals, but like, I really feel like he found a pocket that the band rather found a pocket that their vocalist wasn't hitting, and Mark just lives inside that pocket. So like, it's back and forth between them, and it works out super, super well. Production on here is also really well done. Not a whole lot of rock bass syndrome to speak of, just kind of all around a great track. This is, if you're getting into death metals, this is a good one to start with. So Coffin Feeder, again, subgenre might not be an accurate, someone who's a big Coffin Feeder fan is going to come to me in the comment section and be like, no bro, they're deathcore or something, they're tech death, they're brutal, whatever. I don't do the subgenre game that well, but I know what I like, and I like this. So go check out the new Coffin Feeder track, Plane Zero, featuring Mark Hunter. Mark Morton's in a completely different band. Mark Hunter from Chimera. So that's the new music we're talking about this week. And then, before we get into actually the actual shows, I do actually want to interject real quick. And I had a live show that we attended. We went and saw Beth Gibbons, who was the vocalist for the band Portishead. It's her solo work, so I really didn't know what to expect, aside from it probably was going to sound a bit like Portishead. And it kind of did. It is very unique sound. Beth Gibbons live is kind of awesome, and by kind of I mean she's absolutely awesome. She really kind of knocked the roof off that place. Her encore set was some classic Portishead stuff, and then I think the final song that she did was another solo track. But like, her solo stuff is super interesting, not just because the performance is really good, like very excellent voice, but because like structurally her music is not traditional, like verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, out, and nothing like that. It's kind of all over the place and like orchestrated rather than arranged and written, like if that makes sense. This is an artist, I think, that a lot of people who, if you're into less than radio friendly kinds of music, this is somebody to listen to when you're not trying to go extreme, but you still want something that's going to be interesting for your brain to digest. Like, Beth Gibbons is a good way to go. I mean, Portishead is a great way to go. Don't get me wrong. I really, really love Portishead, but like, I'm digging this solo stuff from Beth Gibbons. So yeah, anyway, that was our little interjection. I had to put it in there because I forgot to record it so we're doing it now. And all right, let's get back to what I already had recorded. Let's talk about the first episode of season 2 for The Last of Us. Okay, this show, season 1 ended on a really solid note in that Joel made a pretty dramatic decision, and the setup was now we're going to have to live with the consequences of that dramatic decision. It seems that we will get to that point eventually in season 2. I will say this again for anyone who's just watching this for the first time, watching me talk about this stuff for the first time. I did not play the games. I do not have a PlayStation console to play these games. I am an Xbox gamer, so therefore The Last of Us was not something that was on my radar as far as playability is concerned. But I'm aware of the games. I'm aware of the broad strokes of the story and stuff. So like I know where we're going. Also, I think it should be noted that because the game exists and the story is so well known, they have made it a point to make the statement in the media that the HBO Max series is not going to be verbatim the game story. They're using that as a reference, but not as a Bible, if that makes sense. So anyway, back to episode 1. I feel like we took 2 giant steps back as far as where we were with the story in season 1 versus where we're picking that same story up in season 2. We missed a lot of interaction between Joel and Ellie, because Abby is the one that's coming to kill him, right? So the girl, Ellie, I'm brain fart. I apologize. Is it in the notes? Did I put it in the notes? I did not put it in the notes. Yeah, so I'm just gonna say Ellie, and somebody's gonna be mad at me in the comment section. I'll maybe put an asterisk on the screen, whatever. I apologize either way. So yeah, Joel and Ellie, we either needed to come in sooner with their story from the events of the last season to now, or we needed, I'm hoping we're going to get some sort of like flashback to what happened so that they kind of fill in some of those gaps, because like it doesn't make a whole lot of sense that she's so pissed at him, outside of the fact that they're trying to make her an independent woman, and the whole narrative over quality argument comes back up when we get to that point, because there are a lot of very difficult suspension of disbelief moments in this very first episode leading us into this new season. All of them deal with Ellie, and all of them deal with her being able to physically protect herself against people who are legitimately many times her size. The opening scene with her character is her fighting with a full-grown dude, and she overpowers him. It is said that yes, he's pulling punches, and she gets mad at the fact that he's pulling punches, but it's like, this guy is more than twice your size and is male versus your female, and biology states that that is a bad equation when it comes to physical altercations as far as the female is concerned. So instead of like putting her in the hospital, he just kind of bloodies her nose a little bit, and then he allows her to overpower him, but it's implied that she overpowers him in spite of himself. So I don't know, that's just like any movie that has a 90-pound girl overpowering full-grown man is difficult to suspend that disbelief. It is possible. It is. There are ways to do it. This is not one of those ways. Also, I've heard this is a departure from the narrative in the game, in that the Abby character, who is looking for vengeance on Joel because he killed her dad, I believe it was. I mean, like, we're gonna get these details, I'm pretty sure, but they've done very poor storytelling to get them to be memorable details in this first episode. So I'm hoping that it's a slow start to what becomes a good season 2. But yeah, the Abby character is seeking vengeance on Joel. Her big guy sidekick is all emotional about it and tries to talk her out of it. And I don't know, just that also feels like a suspension of disbelief issue, unless he's a pacifist and we just don't know the character development for this character. And it's like, there's a way to explain this that it will eventually make sense, but right now it seems discombobulated. The situation, I guess, spoiler alert if you haven't watched it already, but you wouldn't be watching this if you hadn't watched that. But the dance scene towards the end of the episode where Ellie gets to dance with the girl she's been crushing on, and the guy says this is a family. I can't even think of the tertiary character's name because he's not important outside of this. He's disgusted because these two girls are dancing together, and at one point they start kissing, and this is a family event. Like, this is set a few years in the future. Yes, I guess they do kind of come from a small town, so there might be an element of this, but like, this just really feels super unnecessary that we would be in a situation where zombies are a reality and some dude would be worried about two girls kissing in a public place. Like, this feels so disingenuous. This feels like the creators, the writers, Neil Druckmann, the EP showrunner and creator of the game, co-creator of the game. This really feels like the people involved with telling this story have no experience with people like they're trying to make this guy out to be, and so they just make him the most stereotypical and unrealistic version of that. And like, just the unnecessary nature of that really sticks out. Like, in an episode where it was difficult to kind of suspend certain things of disbelief, certain elements of your disbelief, like, it still was like, I'll allow it, and then we get to the end and it's like there's this unnecessarily stupid ending to this episode. And then because he calls the two girls names, Ellie was going to fight him, presumably. Again, a grown-ass man who is presumably in his like 40s or 50s, and she is a 19-year-old girl who probably weighs, again, maybe 100 pounds. Like, this isn't a fight. So Joel steps in and knocks the guy down and you know, says you can't do that. And then so Ellie gets mad at Joel for standing up for her, and it's another one of those elements of like, why the hostility there? She doesn't need him to stand up for her. I mean, maybe he went over the top a little bit with how he was doing it, but like, why not be appreciative of the fact that somebody cares that you're being disrespected? Like, that seems like the more logical route to go with. I don't know. I feel like we're looking at the very strong potential for more piss poor writing in a show that started out really well. I'm thinking of what happened in Invincible for season 3, because good Lord, that was a difficult watch. So I'm hoping that this is just a slow start to what becomes better. I don't think that is the reality, though. So that's what we got for Last of Us. Let's now talk about Bondsman over on Amazon Prime. This is a really fun show. I really dig what's going on in Bondsman. So I don't know, I'm not necessarily going to give you the synopsis. I just finished this season. It was a hell of a lot of fun. 8 episodes, has a setup for a second season. Hopefully they get it. This very much feels like a spiritual successor to the Supernatural series. It's a little bit more grown up than Supernatural was, because Supernatural was on CW, which is a teen-centered programming block that it was part of. And this is definitely not teen-centric. This is more mature because there's a lot of blood and gore, and also strong language. So they drop the F's and the S's and the things, and just, but it's I'm not going to say it's like the best written thing in this subgenre of like supernatural procedurals, because not the best. It's pretty well written. It's pretty well directed. There's very little to do with as far as like plot holes go, and like, yes, the suspension of disbelief situation is easily rectified in that if we're living in a world where demons act in the ways that they're being described to act in this world, then like the things that happen here tend to follow that logic. I haven't been able to find any like issues with the internal logic with the show. I think this is the way you do this modern like supernatural procedure. I think this procedural. I think that this is just a hell of a lot of fun. I'm super hopeful that they get a second season. Kevin Bacon and Jennifer Nettles in this work surprisingly well together. Maybe they don't have the best chemistry, but it's definitely better than I anticipated, because I'm not a big fan of Jennifer Nettles, just in a general statement. I think she does okay with her acting, but her music career with Sugarland was not good. She has this weird vocal affectation that she did only when singing for Sugarland. Like, she sings in The Bondsman and she's got a pretty decent voice. When she was singing for Sugarland, she was singing from her throat and came out her nose, and she just had this really gross, like, fake southern accent she was putting on top of that really weird nasal kind of whine tone. Just absolutely hated the tone of her voice when she was doing Sugarland. But in here, it's a decent voice on Righteous Gemstones, because she plays the mom in Righteous Gemstones, the deceased mom, but the mom nonetheless, in Righteous Gemstones. She sings there, and again, not the nasal garbage that we got when she sang for Sugarland. So super stoked on the fact that she's got a good voice and she's actually using it. There's a lot going on here, man. The setup for the second season looks like there's going to be like even more in the vein of Supernatural. Killing demons and hunting things, or I can't think of that tagline that they said in the intro for Supernatural. But like, I feel like the only thing that was really missing from this was the 70s rock soundtrack that we got with Supernatural, and it would be the more appropriate version of the prequel series that was dealing with Sam and Dean's mom and dad. Like, still wouldn't have made sense with the mythology established in Supernatural, but I would have enjoyed it a lot more. I still enjoyed it a lot more. This show is just a lot of fun. I don't know what else I can say that's not just going to be me talking in circles. And technically speaking, the special effects were highly impressive. There were a couple of spots in here where they're playing with fire, and it's very obvious that the fire is put in post, but it works, man. It works. And again, very, very gory. So not necessarily for the same age group that Supernatural was originally targeted at, because not really a teenage show, definitely a more mature version of a similar concept. So that is what we have for this week in That Just Happened. All right, nerds, before we go any further, as per usual, this is the season of the merch push. So go check out the link in the description and you can get yourself one of these gaming nerd shirts. This is the special shirt for the month. It is going to be active for at least 2 weeks. It did take me a couple of days longer. It literally took me like a day and a half longer to get up than anticipated. So it didn't go up until Wednesday when it was supposed to go up on Monday, but you know, things happen. So yes, gaming nerd, your specialty nerd, I think I'm calling them the special nerd shirts. So that's the month of April is this special gaming nerd shirt. I'm pretty proud of this design, not gonna lie. It's more than just the t-shirt like we have on the other ones. We also have the hoodie, we have stickers, we have a coffee mug. There's a metal water bottle so you can put your W in it and use that it's not a great shaker bottle, but it works. So go check out the Generally Nerdy store, linked down in the description, so you can get your specialty deal. I will be running a coupon code. Hopefully I will have that ready by the time I'm editing this so I can put it on the screen. Otherwise, we'll just talk about it next week. Either way, go get your special gaming nerd shirt. Yeah, this is new territory for me in the designing of things, and I'm having fun with it. So go check it out. Go get something while you're at the store, and let's get back to the show. As far as happening soon, the things coming up, I have Necrogoblicon coming up fairly soon. I have, as far as like live events, I think that's all that's in the immediate horizon. But then we also are going to be taking some time off because I have family things. My niece is getting married, so I'm going to be taking a few days off for that. I have birthdays, I have day job things, I have a lot of stuff getting in the way over the course of the next couple of weeks. So we're looking at probably 2 to 3 weeks without proper episodes. Maybe by the time this goes up, that's going to be a different time frame because I am a little bit behind on these edits, but nonetheless, definitely going to be finishing Isekai, Suicide Squad Isekai. I think I have like 3 episodes left, so we're going to be talking about that. Also going to be making it a point to get my hands on, to in some way, the Hard Eyes movie, because I really want to watch that. I've heard really great things about it. So that's on the docket as far as happening soon. We have, I don't know, I can't think of what new music is coming out, but again, I do have a live show that we're going to be talking about. So yeah, that is what we have for things upcoming. That is where we're going. It's kind of all of the behind the scenes stuff. What, pray tell, is on the docket for you? What are you excited that you interacted with as far as art and content and things go over the course of the last how long it's been since we last talked about such things? Let me know in the comments. You know, did you see a new movie that's super great or terrible? I want to talk about that. I want to talk about new music you've been digesting. I want to talk about TV shows. If you finished Daredevil, I have yet to finish Daredevil. I'll probably do that before we talk next as well. I'm halfway through the new season, so I still have like 4 episodes before I'm done. There's a lot going on, man. So what are you talking, what are you dealing with? What's exciting for you? Let's talk about that. Let's do the thing. That's where we're ending the show though, nerds. So thank you very much for sticking around. Before we go, always remember that if it's generally nerdy, it's probably here, and that just happened.